Hey, I'm Colin. This is the War on Stupidity.
Hey, I'm Clay. I'm part of the More Party Party.
Mm.
And I'm Nick,
What party are you part of?
the Sager Party.
Oh, I thought you were going to be part of the beer party
Sager
too.
Party is 6.
That's right.
Oh,
He's got kids.
it's just
I
reservations.
have a red
actually.
line with a blue mane and white stars. That's how I do it.
What?
Yeah.
It's a bold icon.
Yeah, no,
Wow,
I'm a bold guy.
bold. All right, so today we're going to talk about Hillary Clinton.
Speaking of bold.
Yeah, we're going to go over what she says her stances are on all of these issues. I was confused, actually, to be honest. I pulled up her list, and unlike the other candidates, hers was listed alphabetically. So the first thing I saw was Alzheimer's, and I thought, that's a weird thing to hang your hat on, Hill.
Yeah, hers is in alphabetical order rather than
Mm-hmm.
necessarily order of importance.
Very politically correct.
Very politically correct.
The most politically correct of political correctness.
Yeah. So, what do we want to start on? Nick, did you have some things that you had looked up?
Well, I mean, just as a general, it's not necessarily I want to dive anything into specific, but and now you mentioned, looking at all of her issues, she has, I think, more issues listed on her website than any other person, which also, I don't know, to me doesn't seem to bode well because it's kind of stretching yourself thin rather than focusing on a few key issues. Not saying you should become a one-issue candidate, mind you, but to have this many
See
issues,
our last
a
podcast.
lot of to have this many issues, I don't see how you can possibly accomplish all of these.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, especially whenever we delve into each of the plans on basically starting from creation to push through Congress, in addition to implementation. I mean,
Right. It goes back to what you were saying last time about how Bernie has this great idea and then he needs to execute it, and that's the basis for how well you think he would do.
right. But I don't know. How about we start with gun violence prevention?
Okay.
That's one's getting basically a lot of heat.
Where does she stand on that? Here, I'm looking it up.
So-
guns. Huh, there it is.
Yeah.
All right.
So you have some quotes or maybe things that she's done?
Yeah, she says here that she will take on the gun lobby and fight for common sense reforms to keep guns away from terrorists. I think we can all get behind that.
Very
Terrorists
politician.
should not have guns, probably, and violent criminals. So
I'm not sure on that one.
you don't think violent?
I think
criminals should
violent
have
criminals
guns?
should probably have guns.
You think so?
Yeah. I just think that it'd be good for society.
What are your experiences with violent criminals?
I hang out with you.
You hang out with me.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh.
Good point. Point.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. She looks like pretty tough on guns, I guess. I don't know.
You have
Yeah.
anything on that?
No, it
No?
just
Just kind of tough on guns. That's where she stands.
I mean, that's pretty much what it
Yeah.
is.
But that's the party line for
Yeah.
Democrat, right? Like you're anti-NRA. That's one of those things like abortion and everything that just absolutely divides,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know,
But-
right, left. and
But as
everything, right?
as you read through her website, which I recommend everybody to look at, our viewers, she's not really taking necessarily a firm stance, which may be the best route in truth on something like gun violence, because she wants to strengthen the background checks, which is something again everybody can get behind.
Mhm.
But again, as we go into more of these subjects, you'll see that there's not really a stance taken. She is the best politician of the three candidates running right now, and you will see that basically as we
Sure.
go on.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's in her blood, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Immigration is actually listed top. When I Googled her, that's the top stance. And so she wants to reform immigration to have a path to full citizenship and equal citizenship. So and she promises if Congress won't act, I will defend President Obama's executive actions. So she will, force that down the American, she'll take executive action, I guess.
Yeah, she plans on using executive orders on some issues, one of which being immigration reform. I think somewhere else she has also said that she wants to set up the first ever Office of Immigration, actually to basically set up a whole department within the government to basically streamline the process of naturalizing citizens whenever they come in.
And that would be the goal of
That would be the
department.
goal, but and I hate to keep always referencing whenever we go to further on subjects, but a common theme that you will see in all of these is that I don't ever see a timeline, or it's what I consider to be somewhat ridiculous of a timeline, because it'll be on energy, I think. But you'll have basically no basis of a timeline because you're starting from scratch. You don't see where the funding is coming from or where the money is. or there's basically some kind of rhetoric to say that she will raise taxes without saying raising taxes, because that's not a very popular option to say.
Well, yeah, I think we all agree, and you brought the point up earlier, she's the best politician, and to run for president, I think if you can get away with just generalities, then, without giving the American people some sort of quantifiable fact or a timeline, then that's a good thing because you're not held to it. And she can, just kind of go wherever the political waters take her and, get elected and then see what happens after that.
But to me, it's quite disappointing in that because, the jobs that we have to give timelines, we have to give dates. We have to show that we're striving towards it. If you had two people applying for a job and one person had a plan and showed that they thought through it all and gave you a timeline, regardless of what you thought necessarily, would you prefer that person, or would you prefer somebody who just said, I think this is a really good idea and we should do this? With zero timeline, zero funding idea, zero idea to get the money, and zero implementation thought process. To me, I just expected more from somebody who's been in the political system for so long.
Maybe that's her plan, though, is to play this game of, I'm going to say the exact right things. And it is. I think that what I've heard her described as is the most calculating candidate we've probably ever had. And I think that's what she's doing here. She's calculating and betting on the fact that people are going to go for it when she just says, this is what I like to do, and I will get it done. Because she's convincing when she says that. My dad says she's a better liar than Bill. So, that's Dad. That's not necessarily my views, but you look at her and she's very straight with you. She doesn't ever smile when she's telling you something. She just goes and says what she's going to do or say, and then she does it. And I think that's what some people like about her, and it's what some people are very afraid of.
Yeah, straying a little bit from the issues, I think her biggest weakness is that she doesn't connect emotionally with people. Like, what you just kind of alluded to, she is very straightforward. She says, she's great on policy. She's very articulate with policy, but there's not that connection with people. So she's very good at, calculations. I think that's a good word, to describe her. That's very mathy, very scientific, but does not, connect.
It's cold.
It's very cold and robotic. And I think that's where we saw Bernie Sanders gain a lot of ground and find some, find some of her.
Yeah, he's a very stark opposite to that.
Yeah, he's not Barack Obama or George Bush in the sense that making a human connection.
Right. Bush seems like, and I think we've said this before, but Bush was the guy you absolutely want to go and have a drink at the bar with.
Absolutely, yeah. Obama was a master at connecting with people. Hillary, she's probably the worst at connecting with people of the three remaining. Oh, we should also mention, here we are, what is this, May 5th? Ted Cruz has dropped out of the race.
Yep.
So just kind of benchmark everything here. Ted Cruz recently dropped out.
So
Kasich's dropped out. So it's Trump on the right, and Hillary's almost
pretty well clinched it.
Yeah. We talked about it last time with our overview of Bernie Sanders, that pretty sure he doesn't have a shot at all at this point. So we're looking at Bernie is out, Hillary versus Trump, and we'll go into it on a later date with really, really deep dives into both of those candidates. But today we'll just kind of go over, like we've done for the last two, the overview. So what was the next topic we want to look at? What does she say? I guess according to the Google results.
Well, she has a lot of rhetoric on civil liberties. And I know when North Carolina passed the voter ID law, she said that was carrying this state back 40 years, back to the Jim Crow era, as far as oppression goes. So she wants to make amends there. She's looking for equal pay amongst genders. She's really pushing for that.
What do you mean with the voter registration taking us back to the Jim Crow laws?
Her words, not mine.
You're right. But can you expand on that?
So North Carolina passed voter ID laws, where you have to show a photo ID to vote. Say, "Hello, I'm Colin, and I here's my picture." And she said that is oppressive, and so I don't know exactly her reasoning behind that. I'd like to hear more about that, but that's something she has been very outspoken about. That is one issue that she has kind of taken a hard stance on, which again, that's very much in line with her party. So doesn't deviate from the party, but it is very outspoken.
And that way. I don't disagree with her idea as a whole there, with the thinking that everyone should be given the right to vote. And if you're American, you do have that right. The problem is most of her, and you can see very clearly why she doesn't like this, it's because most of the votes that she's planning on getting here are either from college graduates who are very left-wing or the very lowest class. And that lower class just doesn't have IDs. They don't have this form of identification that she's that we're enforcing here in North Carolina. So she wants those people to come out and vote for her. Without that vote, she doesn't feel as confident.
Still, though, I think it's required in most other countries to show some form of identification to vote. So
Yeah.
Perhaps some of our viewers can educate us as to why this is a good idea to.
Yeah, that one guy in Germany. Tell us, please.
Please, yeah, I would like to know. Yeah.
Those are her hot button issues, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
But it's tough because unlike the other candidates, like there's not really, as you put, she's very calculating. So there's nothing that it seems to like be striking as she's passionate about. Because you have like Bernie Sanders, who's not taking money from corporations, who wants to give free college to everybody. I mean, those are pretty well associated with Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Then you have Trump and the wall and immigration and all that kind of stuff that's kind of associated with Trump. And with Hillary, there's really nothing that kind of puts it as a hot button issue.
Well, yeah, and I think that is a product of this particular election cycle. You've got Trump on the far right. I mean, ideologically very far right, and you've got Bernie as far left as you can go without falling off. And so, and she's somewhere in the middle. And so, relatively, she seems maybe like, I don't know, like she doesn't
ambiguous.
It's sort of like that. There's nothing really to get fired up about with her because she is right there in the middle. But that is a politically calculated move. She understands better than anyone. She's been running for president probably for the last 40 years.
Since Bill's been running for president.
Since she was in her 20s. So, she understands that, Trump is just going to be loud and say things way over here. And Bernie's not really a threat because he's Bernie from Vermont. And so she's stayed in the middle. And that's why we don't have any just hot button issues that everybody gets fired up about with her. She's just going to ride them out. Let them all fall off.
There is something else that's a little bit, becoming more and more pertinent to the situation is, will she be indicted?
Yeah, those were two things that we got to look at as well. I mean, you've got Benghazi, which is I think is going to come up within this election. I think as soon as basically Trump gets the go-ahead, or perhaps he's not even going to wait for a go-ahead at all. And basically, that's going to come up on his attacks on Hillary.
Yeah.
And the same is going to go with this FBI indictment towards. Perhaps you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
I actually don't know that much about it. I just know that she was using unencrypted servers to send very, very classified emails to different accounts using personal email accounts. So that is it against the law or was it perjury that she lied about?
I was going to say, I think it's that, she was not truthful and forthcoming when they asked her for these records early on.
So it's Tom Brady breaking his cell phone instead of just saying, yeah, whatever.
Something like that, except
but on a massive scale where people, they died.
Right.
So, we're looking at this and we're wondering, will she be indicted? Will she not be indicted? What's the FBI going to do? But she's just moving forward. So I think that's what we have to just assume is going to happen is she's not going to be indicted at this moment. It's going to move forward. However, if she is, I read an article today that was saying that the most likely candidate is not Bernie at that point. Can you guess?
I would say it's Biden. Weekends with Biden.
It is weekends with Biden.
4 years with Biden, baby.
4 years of Biden.
Oh my Lord.
And there are some that would argue that Biden would be less. And this is way off the Hillary train at this point.
He would win.
But he would win. But he would be
not Donald Trump.
He would be
the
least effective person out of anyone that was running this year.
Perhaps the Democratic Party should just go ahead and just throw Biden in the mix anyway.
They should put Hill Dog in the orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
It's just,
no,
it'll always depend. It'll always depend on the trial, but that is something that is on a lot of Americans' minds. Right now, you have a presidential candidate that could essentially be, tried and found guilty of a federal crime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous. I mean, and especially if she's already been nominated by her party, and then you have only her versus Trump. I mean, I'm not sure the rules on that. Like, if we're sitting here mid-August, can Joe Biden jump into the race if she's?
I would think it is.
I feel like they would.
I would think it would be possible.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to. I would think that was a good thing for democracy, to have a choice, to say.
Well, no, you'd have to, but I mean, again, it just comes down to, strategy by any part. You can definitely insert a candidate the day before the election. It's just the likelihood of them actually getting elected I mean, without that time in front of the camera and basically the time to connect with people and all the time it takes to go around and be political, you lose all that with, coming in August.
Sure. But in this particular cycle, when you've got so many people who are anybody but Trump,
But you also have people who are anyone but Clinton.
Well, that's true, but I'm saying if Hillary has to drop out because of some particular criminal charge, then whoever jumps into her seat is going to immediately get all the anti-Trump people and all the Democrats that are hardcore Democrat, and all elections are won in that little swing in the middle. In about 6 states, Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, Colorado, Virginia. I mean, those are that's where elections are won and lost in this particular.
You forgot Maine.
In Maine, that's true. Bangor,
Vermont?
Maine.
Vermont,
Bangor, Maine. Augusta, Maine, all these places in Maine.
Yeah.
That's where political hotspots are. But yeah, I mean, so that's where everything's won. And so I don't think it'd be all that hard for Joe Biden or who else. Who else is on the bench in the Democratic Party? I can't even. I mean,
I don't even think there really was anymore on the Democratic bench since from
you
the
got
get-go. There were 2 names that were just basically thrown out there, being Sanders and Clinton.
Yeah. Where does Bill Clinton fall in all of this? What's his play in this?
The liquor cabinet, right? Isn't that what you said last
Yeah,
week?
yeah.
That was a good one too.
Yeah, if he'd get in her cabinet, he'd get in the liquor cabinet, or be the ambassador to Cancun. So.
Yeah, right. I think that either he asks Hillary to be an ambassador to somewhere weird. I don't see him playing a major role, is what I'm saying.
In her presidency. I'm talking about in the campaign.
In the campaign.
What is the bill effect?
Oh, the bill effect, she puts him in a dark closet and doesn't let him come out.
Or are you talking about how he affects her as far as campaigning goes?
Absolutely.
Okay, so as far as campaigning goes, I think Bill Clinton is actually, former President Bill Clinton is actually probably one of the best people you have, because he was president during what most economists say is probably our best economic period in U.S. history, because it was called the Great Moderation. And essentially the economy of the U.S. was very stable, which is something that was not happening before him, and it did not happen after him. So it was during that time where we had what's referred as the Great Moderation, where the economy was very,
she hasn't
very good.
used him at all.
That's true.
Up to this point.
She hasn't needed to.
Yeah, but you have to think too, I mean, this is all just basically conjecture. I think she is also kind of doing this for herself, and I don't think she wants to win based on the fact that she was, former President Bill Clinton's wife. She doesn't want to win on somebody else's coattails. I think she is very driven, very ambitious, as you've seen, all on her own. And I think she wants to win somewhat on her own.
There's also an idea out there that we've already had 8 years of someone with that name.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the same. No one wants another Clinton. No one wants another Bush. Anyone with the last name Bush, sorry, you're never going to be president. Clinton, it's going to be close, but you're not getting there. It's just, I can't see Hillary winning it just based on her name. She's going to have to do something to stand out more than that. And she has. That's why she's not using Bill. I see that as her getting away from that general name and saying, I am not my husband, I'm not Bill. She's saying, I am my own presidential candidate.
I disagree with that point. I think that he is the greatest political asset in the United States right now. I think that he pushed President Obama over the top in 2012. I think he was, neck and neck with Mitt Romney, and when he came to the convention floor and he dramatically, puts his little spectacles on the end of his nose and he puts his hands up there and explains things. That's what they said. He's the secretary of explaining things. That's when Obama's polls skyrocketed. I think he's the greatest asset, and I think she hasn't really had to use him. I think she knows that she's just going to kind of let the children throw things at each other, and then after they've thrown things at each other, she's going to come in and she's going to have Bill Clinton on her side, and he's smooth. I feel like, if he...
Well, he always is.
I mean, he's very smooth, and he's a great politician. He connects with people. He feels her weakness of not connecting with people. He's the best at connecting with people. So I feel like that's something that she will employ.
So what proceeds in this campaign does not reflect on what will happen in the future. You're saying that he will become a factor
in the general election.
In the general,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's just where I see it going.
I could see that.
I think he's a great political asset.
I would say it would be unwise not to use him because a lot of people say that that's a big reason why Al Gore had such a struggle, because he never used Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
In any of his campaigning.
Yeah, I mean, and Al Gore has had the same demeanor as Hillary. Not that they're not brilliant, but he was very cold, and George Bush was warm. and
he was the president that people wanted to have a beer with.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
I think that Clinton plays a huge role. He also, in his campaigns, he has a lot of connections in Hollywood, and I don't think that's something that should go under the table here. I mean, or under the rug, fly under the radar, whatever you want, however you say it. I think that's huge. I think Hollywood will come out in droves against Donald Trump, and the Clintons,
And you have very influential people. I mean, you're talking, musicians and actors that, while I would not recommend listening to somebody else, even us, I would recommend doing your own research. There are many people who would vote for or against somebody who their idol, in Hollywood or wherever, basically tells them who to vote for.
Sure, that helps swing a lot of votes. But I think she will unleash the bill here pretty soon. We shall see.
Unleash the bill.
I'm not sure what that means. That has layers to that phrase.
The next question is he invited to the White House once she gets there?
I don't know. Golly, that's crazy. You think, man?
I mean, this should never affect somebody's necessarily voting.
No.
But I would ask, weren't they found to be taking White House silverware whenever they left the White House? I'm pretty sure that was a thing.
That.
I didn't.
I mean, but wouldn't you though?
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I mean, he was a president. He presidented for 8 years. He presidented
All right,
for 8 years.
What would you take if you get one thing, right?
If I get one thing,
you get one thing to take from the White House.
I'm gonna take the least American thing out of the White House: the bust of Winston Churchill.
You're gonna take that
Podcast
out.
fans, you guys know that I'm a Winston Churchill person, so I'll take the bust of old Winston.
So you're taking Winston.
Ooh, I don't know. You have to do me last.
Do you last? I don't know. I would probably take one of the murals of a president.
Of another president.
Yeah.
Like an obscure president or like a famous one?
No, like a famous one of the greats.
You wouldn't go hipster and be like.
Yeah, I want.
William.
No.
No, okay.
That wasn't. What was that? That wasn't a president. No, I would probably take Andrew Jackson because he's a badass. He's a racist asshole, but he's a badass.
Mm-hmm. You've never seen something with his picture on it? Never seen a $20 bill?
Yeah, but that's not a giant mural.
Okay.
People walk into my house and it's like a 10 by 10 apartment with a giant 10-foot mural of Andrew Jackson. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Nick,
have you had enough time to think?
Not really.
No.
But the only thing that comes to my mind is this story. Again, I can't use names or anything. I typically remember stories, can't remember names or dates or what it was for, but I just remember the important things. I think there's a couch in the White House that Abraham Lincoln couldn't sleep in the bed. He found it uncomfortable, so he'd always sleep on the couch. I would take that couch.
Had to be a pretty
Long
big couch.
I would need help taking the couch.
Are you asking us? We'll come help you.
Well, I mean, I think the mural can be put on the couch, and then you're taking the bust. That could also be put on the couch. So you got 3 people lifting the couch with 2 other items on it.
Yeah.
All right.
We got Andrew, Winston, and Abraham Lincoln's hair from the couch.
It's bound to have been cleaned.
I never know.
You think they never clean it?
No idea. I don't know.
That would be kind of weird.
What do you put Hillary's chances of winning the general election? Just the old smell test. Your old gut.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be actually very close.
I think it could be close as well. I think it's going to be about... I think right now, where we don't know really where they're going to go yet, I think she probably has a 55 chance.
I want to see where the Bernie Sanders fans go whenever he leaves the race.
Well, they're not going to go to Trump.
You don't know that.
I cannot see them going to Trump.
There are some who, some people that I know, have said that they will not vote for Hillary Clinton, and they would go for Sanders, but they will not vote for Hillary Clinton. There's just a very strong sense of, basically, you've got 2 candidates that, while one is very cold and calculating, and the other is just yells a lot, basically. What that affects on the voters is that you have very basically passionate views. You have some that are very diehard Clinton fans, or some are very diehard Trump fans, and some just very anti the other.
I think when Bernie does drop out, though,
I think a majority will go to Hillary Clinton.
I think that's true, but I think even those people that are saying they're not going to vote for Hillary, those people are going to jump back into the middle where they originally were with the majority of people. And then when it comes down to a decision time, they're going to go, well, I actually just cannot vote for Trump. Because it's so far away from what Bernie stood for. It is so far away from what Bernie did that if they did that, they'd be betraying what they say they stand for.
Perhaps.
I hear what both of you are saying. I think the common thread between Bernie and Trump followers, while they're politically ridiculously far away, is that both candidates say, like, I'm going to do something for you. You know, whereas Bernie says, you know, the government is going to write checks for your college or whatever, and Trump says, I am going to negotiate unbelievable deals, and you are going to be better. Like basically, they're saying, I'm going to do all this for you. I think that's kind of the common thread, and people hear that, and that's kind of the message they hear, and they don't understand that you know they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. So you know, I could see some people jumping there, but you're right, they're on the polar opposite end of the spectrum. And if people really looked at like their rhetoric and really studied their issues and where the money would come from, they wouldn't. So you're probably going to have a good mixture. So yeah.
Well, I think.
But I would, like Colin, I would say probably 55 for Hillary, 45 for Trump.
If you were
right now,
from what I've seen, the race.
I'm gonna go actually 50 for Hillary, 45 for Trump, and then 5% for Joe Biden.
Weekends with Biden.
If there was money on it, I would. There's probably massive odds against him.
Yeah.
But I would put like $20 on like 500 to 1 odds for.
If Biden were to announce his candidacy, I think he could win.
You think so?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of in that Hillary zone, as compared to Trump and Bernie. As far as he's moderate, he's calculated.
Well, you just have, like I said, you just have a lot of Democrats that really don't want Hillary Clinton, based on the basically 2 issues of the FBI investigation in Benghazi. That is, they're 2 big sticklers. Not to say that they're minor by any means, but
right.
Yeah. I would handicap it. Hillary, I give her the favor. But this entire time I've said Trump can't last that much longer. When he entered the race, I was like, okay, this is a show for a little bit. He can't last any longer. And then here we are. Republicans keep dropping. And for some reason he hung around. So, I would have never in my wildest dreams believed that Donald Trump would be nominated for a major party. So anything can happen.
And a lot of it also depends on who he chooses as a vice.
Right.
Because while he may be hated, if you're to choose, somebody like Kasich, he could win a lot of votes that way.
And that's what some people are saying he absolutely should do, so he can try to get Ohio.
Right.
But even then, it's a tough.
I mean, it's still probably an uphill battle, but you always have this kind of swing because like with George Bush, he had a lot of Republicans then who voted Democrat because they would do anything just to not have another Republican in office because of George W. Bush's presidency. Not to say it's good or bad, but it was always perceived as very bad as far as presidency goes.
Yeah.
The same can be said for President Obama's. I mean, it just seems like whatever the president does is never good, but it always seems, it's because they're a Democrat. We can't have that again, so we got to swing it back to a Republican.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I would handicap Hillary a little bit and give her the favor is I feel like we're in such a soundbite culture that Trump has said so many things throughout this campaign, so many negative things about people groups, and and to attack people personally. He's already started this crooked Hillary. That's his new caricature of Hillary. He started saying, I'm going to run against crooked Hillary, and so he's gone down this very unprofessional rhetoric. And I feel like she just has to play those sound bites. And I think the American people ultimately, after they hear that over and over again, will rally against that. At least the swing voters, the voters that are up in the air.
Right.
I don't know. I think you give too much credit to swing voters. I think depending on the sound bites, if he changes it up enough, I think it'll catch on, as I've seen with this election. I mean,
recency will outweigh.
I would think that you would not have somebody who has attacked certain people groups would have lasted this far. I would think the party itself would have dropped him. Like to say, hey, like if you say this again, like you can't run with us.
Yeah.
But instead he has won droves of people.
Right. And the way I rationalize that in my head is that he's just the loudest person in the room with the Republicans, with the Republican primary. He's just kicking and screaming, and he sucks all the air out of all the debates. And so the calculated people who understand policy and are great leaders, they try to be more tempered, and he just, crooked Hillary and wow, crazy Bernie and all these things, and that's what people remember. They don't remember the 3 paragraphs that Ben Carson went on about economics that were brilliant. They don't remember that.
Right.
We don't remember that. We remember what Trump said about the Muslims.
And so that's what you got to remember, because until Hillary Clinton can come back with answers for Benghazi or the FBI investigation, until that is calm, she's going to be victim to that, basically, up until those 2 issues are resolved. Either she has to have an issue or an answer for Benghazi, and she'll have to basically either be cleared of the charge for the FBI, or if she's found guilty, then we're looking at Joe Biden potentially anyway. Mm-hmm. So until that time, I think that is something that Trump is going to drive into the ground.
Agreed. And that's a good one to kind of wrap it up on as well. So today was all about Hillary. We got a little sidetracked in the end, but I think that it all does relate. So we're getting into that stage in the election where we're going to start looking more and more closely at each of the actual candidates. And it's exciting, scary, more so than exciting, I think. But we'll have something for you in the near future for all of this stuff, and we'll try to put it in to some articles as well, and just kind of talk through what we think's going on, what we think the public can do to better educate themselves instead of listening to the sound bites that we're all hearing all the time.
Even ours.
That's right. So if you have questions, go ahead and tweet them to us at 2 STUPIDITY, or email us at twostupidity@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Cool.